Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Coaching. My name is Kevinbritz, leadership coach, trainer, and international leadership facilitator, and host of the Lunchtime series where we add value to people's lives, happening every day at 12 on eBiz Radio. Today we are chatting to an interesting lady who does some interesting stuff, and I'm so excited to talk about it because we had a really interesting chat about energy and imbalances and limiting beliefs and how the body really responds to all of this stuff. Please welcome to today's show, Callie Knickelbein. Is it Knickelbein? Let me make sure. Knickelbein.
It is.
Fantastic. Callie, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm good. Thank you so much for letting me join you. It's like so exciting. I'm actually kind of nervous.
Don't be nervous. Yeah, we're literally going to have a good conversation, and I just want to know all about you, and you tell us all about what we do or what you're doing and all about it. So don't you want to give us an intro about that? Tell us who you are and what we are going to be chatting about today.
Oh, sorry, it froze.
Not a problem.
I'm going to introduce me. My name is Callie Knickelbein. I have a... Sorry.
Sure, no, carry on.
Oh, good. Okay. So I have a very interesting route to kinesiology, which is what we're going to be discussing today. I never took the direct path. I took the long and winding path, and I find that that's added color and character, perhaps.
Yeah.
So I started out in retail, for heaven's sakes, and then I moved into geotechnical engineering after that, and eventually found my way to kinesiology, and I feel more at home in kinesiology than I have in the other careers. And I think it was really self-serving in the beginning, the whole point of starting with kinesiology, because I wanted answers for myself and everything that I was going through and the struggles and the challenges that I faced in my life. And I was looking for answers. And the kinesiology helped me uncover the blocks that I was experiencing and the frustrations, and helped me to understand the frustrations and the fears and all of that around there. So it was really to search for answers for myself. And in finding the answers for myself, I found the magic. And I was really, very keen to just then share that with everybody else, which is why I went to go and study kinesiology. And I've been in kinesiology now for about 3 or 4 years.
What's interesting about that is I often speak to people in this, in coaching positions or healing positions or expert positions, and 9 times out of 10, it becomes a calling. It's something that we all have gone through ourselves. And we go, oh, wow, I need to tell people about this. And, I find that is a very common thread among so many people. But don't you want to tell us more about what I say the word right, kinesiologists do, and what do you guys do, and what is it exactly?
In the simplest of terms is we have a sit-down session with a client. Ideally, pre-COVID, I should say, it was face-to-face, but now a lot of the work that we do is online, and I find that it works just as it's just as successful online as it is in person. But we really have a conversation with a client, and we bring the issues to the surface through the conversation. So to the top of your mind, if you will. And then once we've hashed out what the issues are that the client has around the challenges that they have in their life at that particular moment, we then work together to formulate a goal to see how the client would like to feel and be if this particular issue wasn't in play at that particular moment. And then the client would lie on a massage table, and then through a technique that we call muscle testing. It's not unique to kinesiology, but muscle testing. We then ask the subconscious mind, which we understand lives in the body. We ask the subconscious mind yes or no questions. And then based on the answers, we then unblock the energy that is blocked around the particular challenge that they're facing at that moment. Yeah.
Now, so most people, when they hear this kind of thing, they're kind of going, what the hell is this lady on about, right? But don't you want to give us more insights about the energy systems and the energy centers that are in the body, and sort of why that's important to note and part of kinesiology?
Kinesiology is based on the ancient Chinese systems, which talks to the meridians that operate, and we work with the chakras, but we work more with the meridian systems energetically, and then the acupressure points that exist on the body. And science is telling us every day more and more that everything is energy. Even a lot of scientists will say to you that emotion is just energy in motion. And what happens is that in a moment in a person's life, when they are experiencing an exceptionally emotional, traumatic situation, what happens to the body in that sense is that the oxygen is deprived at a specific part of their body, and that emotion then gets stuck in the muscles around that, whichever area in the body it is affecting them at the time. And when we talk kinesiology and we talk about unblocking that energy, we look for where in the body the energy is stuck. And then if we can use the analogy of a water pipe and water, I mean, if water gets blocked in a pipe, the water becomes stagnant. And it's very much the same thing with regards to the energy. The energy is stuck in that space and it can't move forward, and it literally is holding you in place in your life and not allowing you to move forward. And so by using the various corrections that we have in our fingertips, we talk to a specific blockage in the energetic system, which is the meridians. We follow the meridians, and we unblock that energy and we allow it to flow. So if we look at the water pipe analogy again, we're taking all of the gunk out of the way that has stopped the water from flowing, and we're allowing the water to follow its natural course. So we're allowing the energy to follow its natural course on the body.
Yeah. So don't you also just want to touch on why this is so significant in terms of the conversation you're having with the body? Because essentially part of that conversation is really connecting to the subconscious and being able to guide you through what that person's subconscious is really allowing or not allowing, or really giving you a bit of answers. And don't you want to touch on why that's important and how that plays into everything you're talking about and what this process is?
Yes, absolutely. It's vitally important. Dr. Bruce Lipton is a neuroscientist, and I've read a lot of his work, and so this is the easiest for me to explain because I love the way that he explains it.
Yeah.
He talks about the Jesuits who have a saying that say that give me the boy until he is 7 and I will show you the man. And essentially what that means is that the Jesuits are very in tune with the energies and are very much aware, were historically more aware than the rest of us, that the first 7 years of our lives, we live in a subconscious mind. So we do not have a conscious brain, and our conscious mind only kicks in at the age of 7. So what the subconscious does is it accepts everything as truth. Everything is a truth, because it does not have the conscious ability to distinguish between this is going to work for me, this is not going to work for me, yes, I want to take this on board, no, I don't want to take it on board. So for the first 7 years of our lives, we accept everything as truth. So if you're an infant and you take a lollipop from your brother or your sister and your mother shouts at you and you goes, that's a bad girl, then your subconscious goes, okay, I'm a bad girl. And that becomes part of your programming. And then all of the decisions that you make later on in life are based on that programming, which is I'm a bad girl. So any decisions later on in your life, say in your 20s or your teenage years, if you want to you're in a situation and you go, well, I'm a bad girl. Subconsciously, you're not actually consciously thinking this, because we do not actually realize how much our subconscious mind rules our decision. So you make a decision from that core belief of I'm a bad girl. And just to give you an easier sort of explanation in terms of how our subconscious rules our mind, Dr. Lipton talks about changing our behaviors. And there are 3 distinct ways that he talks about changing our behaviors. And the one is through habituation. And if you think about when you're in your 20s or 18 years old and you learn how to drive a car, you learn how to drive a car through habit. So you do it every single day. And then it becomes part of the subconscious. And when you're driving in your 40s and 50s, 50-year-olds, you're not even thinking about how to drive anymore. You're just changing the gear, you're putting your pedal, you're hitting the pedal for the speed, and you're moving forward. And that's what I mean when I say that our subconscious rules our everyday decisions without us even being aware of it. The second way that he talks to is through hypnosis and affirmations. And those are also, again, like daily practices. I mean, even if you like going to school, you learned to speak and you learned to write through habituation, learning your ABCs, practicing every day. And then the third thing he talks to about changing at a subconscious level is he actually recommends kinesiology, and he talks about the fact that he had a book in him that he just couldn't write. And then he went through a couple of sessions with a kinesiologist, and it just released all of the energy that was blocking him from writing this book, and he was able to publish.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of muscle testing, as a key phrase, don't you want to just clarify that for us, what that is and sort of what that process looks like?
Okay. Muscle testing is really, let me think. I know I've got this written down somewhere, but what we do is we look at specific muscles on the body. And when we're face to face with a client, then we use easy muscles, which are brachioradialis, which is the muscle on your forearm. And we have a technique that we use where we are able to strengthen the muscle. So what brachioradialis does is it helps your arm to bend from the elbow to the wrist in an up-down position. So when you're flexing your arms, that's what that muscle does. And so when we weaken that muscle, we allow it the movement for going down. And when we strengthen the muscle, it makes it stronger and it doesn't move. So then we apply pressure on the wrist we don't force it. We just ask the client to hold. And the movement is very subtle. And so we ask yes/no questions to the body. And if the muscle moves away with the applied pressure, then that's a no. But if the muscle stays strong and it doesn't move, then that for us is a yes. So we're very specific in the questions that we ask. If the client for any reason is not able to lie down, we're then able to use anterior deltoid, which is the muscle that allows you to lift your arm up above your head and down to next to your body. And we use that muscle to test for yes or no answers.
Fantastic. So one of the questions we have here is what corrections are used during kinesiology balance? So, there's, tell us about the corrections. What does that mean?
Okay, so the corrections, we use flower essences, we use crystals to help correct, because crystals vibrate at a specific frequency, and we're talking about energy anyway. So when you hold a specific crystal against your body, it's going to feed the energetic system of your body with that specific vibration. And then talking about vibrations, I mean, science is also teaching us that love vibrates at a much higher frequency than things like fear, which operate at a much slower frequency. And then again, we use various acupressure points on the body, and we will massage those points in a circular motion, or we hold those points. So when I say hold them, there are a number of chakras that exist in our hands, and we've often heard the expression healing hands. So when it calls to hold a point, we just literally put the palm of our hand. For example, these 2 points that jut out here on the top of your forehead, those are called emotional stress release points. So we would, if this is the point that requires the correction in terms of shifting the energy and moving the energy, helping the energy to flow again, we would just literally hold the forehead. And when you hold it like that, you can feel after about 20 to 30 seconds, you can actually feel a subtle pulsing. And that's telling me that the energy has started to shift again.
Does that mean can I also feel my own energy pulse, or doesn't it work?
Of course you can. No, of course you can.
Okay, so I need to try that and see, especially when I'm stressed, right?
Well, this is a very useful technique while we're on the subject in terms of emotional stress release. And we do it unconsciously. If you look at people, when they say, oh, I'm so stressed, they'll go like this, or they'll hold their points over here.
Yeah.
And that's instinctive. Because we've, as a culture, globally, we've stopped listening to our bodies because we've given permission to doctors, and there's a place for a doctor. There really, really is. I'm not saying that doctors are bad in any way, but we've almost given our power over to these medical experts because we think that they know more than we do. But if we quieten ourselves down, we can actually, our bodies speak very loudly and very clearly to us. And that's why instinctively we know to hold this point.
So walk us through one of the things. I mean, there are lots of questions here, and I know that we've got information to share, but walk us through like a practical moment that you've actually gone through with someone. Give an example of something that a client maybe came and saw you about, and with walking them through this process and going through a bit of the processes that you're mentioning, like what was the outcome and how did that sort of play out for them?
A recent, oh no.
No, there we go.
Are you there still? Yeah. Oh, okay, great. It came back. Sorry, the screen went blank. It's because it was giving me a moment to think about a really good experience. My teacher always says that awareness is everything. So when a client comes to you, I had a client recently who felt very blocked in her career. She felt like she wasn't moving forward because she's recently changed careers, right?
Yeah.
And so she started working for herself, and that's what I mean by changed careers. And she doesn't feel like the flow of business is coming her way. So she feels very stagnant and very blocked in that area. So she came to see me about that. And then we talked through the process, obviously, and so that I can bring to the surface whatever it is that is the most challenging. And interestingly enough, it turns out that because some of the healing modalities that come up in a session is an age recession. So, for example, she recessed to 18 years old, and it was at 18 years old when she changed countries, and she was very new to the country and wasn't able to speak the language as effectively as all the locals, and would be mocked.
Yeah.
And it was the brunt of the joke. So do you see how that connects? I mean, she moved to a new country. It was all new for her. Currently, she's moving to starting her own business. So it's all very new for her. And so that, speaking of the language, which was completely foreign to her, her body retained the memory of that and how traumatic that event was for her. And it's connected it to this event now where she's changing and she's creating her own business.
Yeah.
And so we released the energy around that block at 18 years old. And she said to me that people that she set up as connections like months and months ago, that she thought had gone dead, suddenly started phoning her. Like literally out of the blue.
Yeah.
And so that is so amazing. I mean, that's on like a practical level. On a more emotional level, I've had a client come to me and she was she loved her husband, but she didn't feel like she was loving her husband as deeply as she could love her husband. And in the process of uncovering whatever it was that was blocking her and preventing her from truly and just all-encompassingly loving her husband, we talked about a friend of hers who had died when she was 10 years old.
Sure.
And that event and interestingly enough, her grandfather died at roughly about the same time. And so for her, she connected love and death emotionally in her body. And that's why she was so scared to love her husband, because she was so scared that he was going to die.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like all the connections, and you think, I think people go through their lives kind of going, yeah, I'm completely over that, and it's not something that I need to deal with, and I'm done with it. And even though it was terrible, I'm fine. I'm a fully functioning adult, etc., etc. But I think the body has such a way of really figuring out what trauma is it's dealing with, and how to show it out or show it up in your world, that if we don't actively deal with it and pay attention and go back and learn and reassess and figure out what could possibly be the clincher that sort of drives you through this positioning the whole time, eventually, and that's, you hear so often where people find themselves in like bad relationships, or they go through the same work process and they don't like it, and they go to a new job and they don't like that job, and but instinctively there may actually be something hidden in your subconscious that you're not aware of, where you're functioning from the whole time. So that it's such an interesting sort of mind mapping process, right? It's I find it so fascinating. I absolutely love it. So tell me, if you had to mention some of the benefits, so what are the benefits that when you go through a process or go through a few sessions, so what are the benefits that are, I mean, besides the obvious ones that you've mentioned, but what are those benefits that you could take away from having these sessions?
Well, for me personally, I feel like I can make a difference in your life in one session. If you have constant headaches, for example, I mean, I helped out a friend. Literally, she's like, I keep getting these headaches, and I honestly only had one session with her because she lived in Cape Town, I lived over here, and at that stage I wasn't working online.
Yeah.
And it all had to do with her checking off her to-do list and feeling overwhelmed. She was just, I wasn't getting to it, and I mean, it was all just in her head. And so in one session, I was able to help her stop the headaches. But long term, the benefits for me are better if I have more time with you.
Absolutely.
Because then we can remove the bigger blocks, the bigger stumbling blocks that are preventing you from living your best life. And for me personally, how it has changed my life, I've moved from the victim in my life to the hero in my life, which is why on my page, on my website, I talk about becoming your own hero, and becoming your hero in your own life, because I've seen how that has shifted for me. So yeah, I think that's the heart of it, really, is helping us shift from the victimness of our lives into the hero-ness of our lives. Because
absolutely,
I mean, we're all here and we're all in this together, and if we can do it from a space of love and confidence, and why not?
That's amazing. So Callie, if you could give us, I mean, we don't have a lot of time, and there's so much information that you've shared with me, and we're not going to even get to all of it. But if you could give us one practical tip, just give us one or two practical tips that we can start applying today, and kind of go, okay, is this something that I can measure this with, or help myself with, or what are some? I mean, you showed me the finger technique the other day, and I'm still working on that and trying to figure that out. But speak to us about just a few practical tips I can start, implementing right now.
Okay. So the best one for me is the FO hold, which is the frontal occipital hold, which is literally you put one hand on the front of on your forehead, and the other one goes at the back of the base of your skull.
Yeah.
And what this does, in stress, the first thing we do is we look to the past. We want to, because that's what we know. We know the past, and that's how we can make solutions. So in the occipital portion of the brain, which is at the back, at the base of your skull, that is where your past resides.
Mm.
And so when you hold the back and the frontal portion of your brain is where your current creative present resides. So by holding the front and the back in the FO hold, the frontal occipital hold, you're literally connecting your past with your current creative present. So that's the first thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
When we're in stress, literally, we know this. I mean, everybody is telling us this. When we're in stress, blood drains from your brain because it needs to get to your extremities so that you can either fight or flight or freeze. And you cannot have clarity of thinking if there's no blood pumping through your brain. So the second thing that this does, the FO hold does, is it instructs the body to bring the blood back up to the brain. And if your brain has got blood pumping through it, then you have more clarity of thinking. And the third thing that it does, because we've also been taught that cortisol is the stress hormone, and that is released into your body when your body is in stress, this also then instructs your body to calm down. It's telling the cortisol, you're not needed. There's no need for you here. No need to flood the body. So it does three things. It connects the past with the current present. So you come up with more creative solutions to the stressful moment in the present.
Yeah.
So you're not solving the problem from the old archaic past that doesn't work anymore for you. It's working for right now. The other thing that we are being told by science is that in stress, our brain is beginning to operate incoherently because it is breaking apart. So the left and the right and the top and the bottom and the front and the back portions of the brain are no longer operating as a whole. And so because it's incoherent, you're sending incoherent messages to your body. So if you stub your toe, for example, but you're so stressed and everything like that, and your brain is incoherent, your brain is going to send the healing messages to your toe. But because it's all incoherent, it's going to end up in your elbow, and your elbow's going, what the hell? I didn't bump my elbow, I bumped my toe. So there's incoherent signals going to the body, so the wrong portions of the body are being healed. So the other technique, which is really simple and very easy to remember, is you take the flat palm of your hand and you put that over your belly button. And then just below the collarbone, you've got 2 points on either side, on the left and the right side. So you use 2 fingers and a thumb, and you stretch it out and you put it underneath your collarbone, and you just massage those points in a circular motion. But while you're doing that, you look to the left and you look to the right with your eyes only, not with your whole head. And while you're looking to the left and looking to the right, what you're doing is you're instructing the brain to connect the left and the right brain, the left and the right hemispheres of your brain.
Yeah.
And when you do that to about a count of 5, and then you switch over and you put the other hand on, because by switching over, you're also connecting the left and the right.
Yeah.
Right. Then after that is a really sexy Kim Kardashian purse. So you purse your lips.
Yes.
And one palm of your hand over the navel on your belly button, and then you just rub the top and the bottom of your lip. And then while you're doing that, you look up at the ceiling and down at your toes, up at the ceiling and down at your toes to a count of 5, and then you switch over. And this is connecting the top and the bottom half of your brain. It's telling the top and the bottom half of your brain to talk to each other. And then the third one in that session is on your coccyx, where your bum cheeks meet at the top.
Yeah.
You massage that point in a circular motion for about to the count of 5, while the other hand is on your belly button. And the reason we hold and when you do this, you look to the far distance, and then you bring your eyes back down to your toes and look to the distance and bring to the toes. So count to 5, and then you swap hands, again looking in the distance and looking down at your toes. And by holding your belly button and massaging the point, you're creating a circuit. You're creating a circular circuit. And then once you've done this, it's literally called switching.
Yeah.
So you're switching on your brain. So you're telling your brain that it's one whole coherent whatever, and that is going to start sending coherent messages to your body. It will also calm down the stress.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, such practical points, and I think that's it's essential, because then people can go home and actually try this. But Callie,
Yes.
if we want to find out more about you and who you are, what you're doing, don't you want to give us a bit of insight on that? And where can we get hold of you?
I have a website, and it's Inspired Personal Development.
Yes.
And somebody asked me in an interview once, where did the name come from? And I literally said I was inspired. And that's why it's Inspired Personal Development.
Yeah.
So I have a website, and all of my contact details are on there, my email address, my telephone number, and my Facebook page, etc., etc. I think
amazing.
that's just, yeah.
Fantastic. And guys, obviously all the information will be in the description box below, and this will be on all the social media sites. Callie Knickelbein, I'm going to have to get it right eventually. Callie Knickelbein, kinesiologist. Thank you for joining me, and thanks for being on the Lunchtime Coaching.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I've actually really loved it.
Fantastic. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I'll put all this information in all the description boxes, and yeah, we'll share it everywhere, and hopefully lots of people phone and speak to you about it.
Oh yes, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Callie, thank you for your time, and I will chat to you soon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye-bye.